Welcome to the Mystic Messenger podcast. I'm your host, the Mystic, and today we are going to dive deep into the moon mysteries and the Christos fluid, what the elites never told us. What if every 28 days you were being offered a chance to awaken something ancient inside of you? Not just a hormone cycle, not just a mood shift, but a literal sacred fluid, a spiritual elixir known by the mystics as the Christos fluid. It moves silently through your spinal cord. It follows the moon, and it holds the power to transfigure your entire being, mind, body, soul, and DNA. But here's the thing. No one told you. They taught you to watch the moon for astrology memes. They taught you to ignore your body's rhythms. They taught you to choose spirituality outside of yourself. Meanwhile, the moon was calling you home. Let's start with this. The moon doesn't just rule the tides, it rules timelines. Every 28 days, the moon completes a cycle from new to full and back again. Ancient initiates knew this wasn't just astronomy, it was activation. Because the human body, both male and female, follows a spinal and cerebral rhythm that mirrors the lunar pattern. At the center of this rhythm is something hidden, a spiritual oil, a fluid of divine light that rises in the spinal cord, and when activated correctly, can awaken the higher brain centers and open the crown. Mystics called it the Christos, or the anointing oil. The Christos fluid is not symbolic. It's a biological, spiritual, and alchemical substance made of the cerebrospinal fluid, endocrine secretions, and pranic light codes. It's produced in the sacral and solar plexus regions and moves upward like Kundalini, but with one key difference. Kundalini is the fire of awakening. Christos is the oil of remembrance. When preserved and channeled correctly, this fluid travels up the spine around day 12 through 16 of your personal moon cycle, reaching the pineal gland around day 28. That's why the ancients fasted, meditated, and practiced inner alchemy during lunar cycles. They were preparing their body to become a temple for light. If you pollute the body, overstimulate the senses, or waste your life with life force energy, the fluid is burned or absorbed prematurely. But if you align, you can transfigure. Let's get into the raw. The elites built an entire society against your rhythm. Artificial lighting ruins melatonin and lunar sensitivity. Processed foods blocks pineal gland function. Sexuality depletes the Christos fluid before it can rise. Constant stress keeps the fluid stuck in lower centers. Disconnection from nature severs the moon's body memory. Why? Because if you truly remember what your body can do, if you remember that you carry the literal divine anointing oil inside of you, you would never need their system. You would no longer be programmable. Here's where it gets wild. The Santa Claus myth wasn't originally about gifts under a tree. It was an esoteric allegory about the Christos. Let me decode it. Santa, Saturn, Father Time, the alchemical gatekeeper. The chimney, your spine, the channel the Christos fluid ascends. The sleigh and reindeer, the sacred breath and pranic winds. The North Pole, the brain's crown and pineal gland. Gifts, illumination for those who prepare their temple. And coal, symbolic of mist transfiguration. If you're good, you'll receive light. If you're not aligned, you get coal, the dense form of unused potential. The coal is not a punishment. It's an ancient symbol for what could have been alchemized but wasn't. This myth was esoteric initiation knowledge once taught in sacred schools. The church and elite systems rewrote it as a children's tale, and you forgot your body was the sacred chimney. Now here's where things get deeply personal and mystical. The Christos fluid, like all sacred energies, moves in cycles every 28 to 30 days. Your body naturally builds this anointed oil. But the moment it has a chance to rise depends on your birth moon and lunar alignment, meaning you have a unique seed point when the alchemical oil is at its peak potential. Here's how to find it. Look up the moon phase on the day of your birth. Was it a full, new, waning, or waxing? Each month, track when the moon returns to that same phase. That's your activation portal. Around day 12 to 16 of the lunar cycle, It's entered sacred discipline. Fasting, sexual retention, spiritual practice, clean food, and low stress. Around day 28, or the moon returning to your natal phase, the oil is ready to ascend. This is your alchemical gate. Miss it, and the fluid is reabsorbed. Honor it, and your inner temple ignites. This is why monasteries, mystery schools, and yogic paths all honored moon rhythms. They weren't just symbolic, they were activating the divine fluid. This is not about religion. It's about sacred physiology. To awaken the Christos fluid, you don't have to join a monastery, but you do have to become a sacred keeper of your own body. Practices that support Christos awakening. Clean, alkaline living. Reduce acidic food, meat, and processed sugars. Sexual energy conservation. Not suppression, but redirection upward. Breath work, especially spinal breathing or rhythmic nasal cycles. Meditation on the pineal gland or inner sun. Water fasting or light eating around days 12 to 16 of the cycle. Chanting a mantra that vibrates the spine. Ha, Ra. Salt and sunlight and silence. Cleanse the blood. Activate the codes. This isn't just for mystics. It's your birthright. A lost ritual of light body preparation. Most people only associate the moon with emotions, but in esoteric astrology, the moon is your soul memory. It holds your karmic DNA, your past life lessons, and your body's programming. When the moon activates the Christos fluid, two other planets step in. Venus governs the divine feminine and the heart center. Mars governs the sacral center and willpower. In sacred alchemy, you need the moon to remember, Venus to open, and Mars to rise. When your emotions, the moon, your love, Venus, and your will, Mars, come into harmony, the Christos fluid flows like a sacred current through the tree of life within your spine. This is how divine union happens inside of you first. Before the counterpart, before ascension, it starts in the temple of you. They told you Christ was a person, but Christ is a title, meaning anointed one. In ancient initiation, you were anointed when your inner oil reached the pineal gland and ignited the light within. This was never meant to be outsourced to a church. It was biological, alchemical, tied to the moon cycle and repeated every month, offering a chance to become a living embodiment of light. That's why the elites mock this process with holiday myths, turned Santa into a consumer symbol, distracted you from the moon, and disempowered you from your own temple. Because the true anointed ones are rising again, and they don't carry Bibles, they carry memory. Let's talk about the distortions. The moon is not just a glowing orb of emotion and romance. It's a record keeper, a mirror of Earth's soul field. But over thousands of years, the moon has been misused, misunderstood, and energetically tampered with. Ancient texts from Gnostic to certain Vedic sections hint that the moon is not purely benevolent. In fact, some esoteric traditions say the false matrix uses the moon as a kind of emotional reflector to trap souls in loops of trauma, memory, and illusion. Here's how the distortion works. During the full moon, emotions are always amplified, but clarity is reduced. During the new moon, you're meant to plant seeds, but most people fall into confusion. Lunar eclipses are portals of karmic memory, but are often treated like emotional chaos. The truth is, the moon amplifies whatever is unhealed. That's why it's so triggering. That's why most people don't want to sit still during it. And that's exactly why it's the gatekeeper to your sacred oil. Now, let's move to the planetary keys. The elites have made astrology seem like either a joke or a trend, when in fact it's the map of your light body clockwork. Besides the 28-day moon cycle, here are a few planetary activations that can help you awaken the Christos fluid and activate dormant codes. Venus conjunct your moon activates emotional love codes and inner feminine anointing. Sun trine Neptune, ideal for dissolving ego illusion and increasing spiritual receptivity. Think of this as the perfect Christos fluid riser. Mars trine Pluto awakens sacred will and purifies the sacral energy centers, used by ancient warriors in initiations to hold the fire of ascension. Saturn return or square. Force is energetic discipline and the embodiment of spiritual oil as purpose. Chiron conjunct to inner planets allows the soul wound to become the vessel through which the sacred oil flows. All of these happen throughout your chart and your life. You just weren't taught to track your biochemical light activations. They hid that from you. There's a sacred test that happens just before the oil rises, and it happens during the dark moon phase. This is when the moon is not visible in the sky. Energetically, it's when you're pulled inward, when everything slows down. It feels like doubt, confusion. It feels like, I'm not ready yet. But this is the test. Will you still walk the path of light when you cannot see it? Will you fast, pray, create, or meditate even when your mind tells you it's not working? This is the Christos test, because the oil only rises in silence, and the dark moon is where the ego wants to panic. If you pass this test, the pineal gland receives the sacred oil and begins to vibrate with crystalline frequency. That's what creates your halo, your electromagnetic aura of remembrance. That's what reboots your soul memory. That's what creates spiritual magnetism. You become a walking Christos flame. The ancients called it by many names. The Christos Soma, manna from heaven, the elixir of life, ambrosia, or simply the oil. In esoteric physiology, it is the sacred secretion from the clostridium cerebri, traveling down the spinal column and back up to the pineal, where it becomes spiritual light. It's produced monthly, it carries your divine DNA codes, and it is wasted when we live unconsciously. The Christos fluid is your biological bridge to spirit, your soul essence in liquid form, the sacred fire inside the temple of your body. This is why they mock it with Santa Claus. He sees you when you're sleeping. You get coal if you're not in alignment, or gifts if you've held the path, and he enters through the chimney. It's an allegory for the inner alchemy. It's been right in front of us the whole time. You were never just human. You were never just a mind. You were a temple. And inside that temple is the sacred fire, the Christos flame, the divine oil, the remembrance. Every 28 days, your body gives you another chance to awaken it. Not through hustle, not through information, but through integration. You are the altar. Your spine is the staff. Your breath is the priest. Your soul is the flame. So how do you know how to do this? In a modern world, on a spiritual path, in the body that forgets. Here are 3 ancient but forgotten keys to activate in the Christos within. 1. Sacred stillness. Every new moon, take 3 days of digital silence. Breathe, journal, and fast from distraction. This creates the vacuum needed for the oil to begin to rise. 2. Spinal devotion. Move with intention. Stretch your spine. Sit tall. Your spinal fluid and the Christos oil are magnetically linked. Dance, yoga, breathwork, these activate the inner river. 3. Dream communion. The days before and after the moon are windows of lunar dreaming. Before sleep, ask, what does my soul want to show me? The subconscious plane is where your Christos blueprint often first appears. If the masses activated their Christos fluid, wars would end, disease would lessen, control systems would collapse, and most of all, the elite would lose their grip on frequency. Because when you remember your oil, you remember your origin. And once you remember your origin, no one can enslave you again. That's why they distract you. That's why they keep you in emotional loops. That's why they poison the body temple. They fear your electromagnetic light. They fear your sovereignty. They fear that if you truly remembered, you'd ignite others, and that's exactly what you came here to do. So here it is, soul to soul. The moon is not your enemy, it's your reminder. Christos is not a myth, it's your inheritance. The oil is not lost, it's dormant, waiting for your alignment. You are the holy temple, and the flame has always been inside of you. Let this next moon cycle be your anointing. Let your spine become the staff of remembrance, and let the oil rise, because this time, you're ready.